So I got a reply on one of my recent videos that asked the question, when I can I do a vlog and some samples of the 4K 120? Thank you, big fan of the channel, appreciate it. Ani, appreciate that, 1968. I'm sure it was a good year. So let's talk about 4K 120 in the Sony ZV-E1. So this is back with the dynamic active on. I'm addicted to this mode on the camera, but I can't get this on the 4K 120. Unfortunately, when you do switch over to 4K 120 in the Sony ZV-E1, you're not only missing out on the dynamic active, but you're also missing out on that active stabilization as well. Now this is on a non-Sony based lens, so with the Tamron 20mm, it's already a little tight, but I mean, if your arms are long, you can get away with it. I can't, even with the Manfrotto Pixie, and I don't want anything like super long. I have to get all the way out here. But 4K 120, it looks good, it looks crispy. You do have to think about overheating if you're going to be doing a lot of that, but with the mix of what I was doing today, it was actually pretty good. I just forgot everything was in 4K 60, so I did run the camera for like an hour plus in 4K 60 unbeknownst to me, and it did overheat. But naturally, we were at a breaking point. Turn the camera off, give it like 5 minutes, and I'm back to recording like normal. So it's something to think about, but it's not the only thing to think about.
Welcome to my lair.
I was looking in there and
Don't
like,
pay attention. I'm on my day off.
it's okay, so are we.
You look lovely. This could be like a smaller mastermind meeting or team meeting.
Yes.
You meet it here. Wait, there's more.
Oh, but wait.
This eventually will be our mastermind. And look, all the whiteboards I've ever dreamed of.
So this is the event space. You know, you can have it set up whatever way you want to.
We can set this up if we want to have like a reception before or after a mastermind meeting, or before or after a, like we're having a workshop. We can set this up, have a party in here. We can also roll up these doors, have it outside. We have volleyball court, basketball court. I mean, two things I will never use, but some people.
It's so nice.
Wait, there's more.
So quick code of the day, if you want a free book by me from my best-selling book, The One Right Video, send the code to the email on the screen. Comments don't count. Email on the screen, ZAB. Quick code is ZAB. Make sure you send your address. You do need to be in the US in order for you to get a copy, but ZAB will get you a free signed copy of my brand new best-selling book, The One Right Video. But let's get back to the video you're watching right now. It's bright out here.
What'd she say?
Got Uncle Ray and Tambalam for the vlog. So you just finished looking at your office. How do you feel?
Super great. Better than stupendous.
Better than stupendous. 11.
There we go.
Well, good morning.
Good afternoon.
It is afternoon. I always say good morning, though.
I like that about you. Where were we?
beautiful day in the neighborhood, so I figured I'll just slide on out and come experience the beauty that is beautiful Spokane, Washington. So hopefully without falling, let's go talk a little bit about some of the stabilization, and that dog wait good until I come outside. Alrighty guys, so let's talk a little bit about the E1 and the recent update from Sony on the 120p update and the 1080p 240 update. So this question comes in from a comment saying that the highest stave setting that you can use is no more than 24p for the 120 frames update that just happened with Sony. Really? Plain. A plain. Side note, those of you that's been around the channel for a while, you know that the US military, all the flight companies, always go for just a quick buzz over the house anytime I'm doing a video. I'm in a whole other state, and it's a plane. Gotta love it. Alright, so the question is about the highest stave setting that you can do in 120 frames per second. Now, today I didn't really even think about using much of the 1080p 240 frames per second update in the camera, because most of everything, I think, yeah, everything that I've been shooting is in at least 4K 24 frames per second. When you have something that you're doing, if you're used to using 1080p or just want it super duper slow, the 240 frames per second, I think it is so dope to have access to that in the camera, because usually it's with our smartphones or something like a GoPro, think maybe even the Osmo Pockets or something, then you're getting high frame rates like that, but not in regular cameras for the most part. 120p and 1080 is what we could do, at least in the Sony APS-C line, for quite some time. So having access to this, I'm going straight for the gold. I'm doing 4K 60 and 4K 120. And unfortunately, but surprisingly, I was using 4K 60 the whole time that I was out with Ray, and we were looking at the new office location and just recording a bunch of stuff. I'm used to doing 4K 24, but I switched to 4K 60 at some point, and everything wound up being in 4K 60 for the most part. So for the shots that I thought would look good in 4K 120 frames per second, you still want to take into an account when it comes to the stabilization, because you can only go up to standard stabilization digitally and whatever the IBIS is in the camera, which I don't think for Sony is that great. It's been improving, don't get me wrong, it's definitely improved over the years, but I feel like it could be better. But the dynamic active is what I really wish we could do in this camera. Now here's a tricky idea. Here's the thing. I think that this setting isn't available in the E1 because it probably will become available in a camera like the FX3 Mark II, A7S Mark IV, if that ever becomes a thing. I'm not sure the A7C Mark II would probably do anything different. It probably will have a lot of similar specs to the E1, maybe a little bit more, but I really think maybe something like a camera like the A7 V, the update to the A7 IV, might be able to have dynamic active and active stabilization available when you're doing the 120 frames per second. The other thing that I think when it comes to the actual 120p being without the dynamic active being available to us is because most people are going to use gimbals. And I take that back. Not most people, some people will use gimbals, and they don't want anything interfering with the stabilization in the way that it looks, which I think is smart. I think it's pretty smart. This gnome is not a paid actor. But what about those people like me, probably like you, where we're not trying to use a gimbal, or in your everyday carry when you want to get those 120p shots, you want the stabilization? I think it's a couple factors of why we're not going to see it in the E1. I think that first one is really the fact that when you slow down 120p, most of those jitters and stuff will probably be gone. Do you want the extra stable on that? Yes. Are you probably going to need it for some shots? Probably no, but I think every little bit helps. So I would love to see it. The other thing is that when you potentially maybe use Catalyst Browse with that, you'll be able to still get that stabilization should you need to knock any of those extra jitters out. So that's a factor. And then of course the other thing being the overheating. For example, I accidentally shot in the 4K 60 for all of those clips, which was the better part of an hour plus, and then I noticed that the camera was getting hot just from the way I was normally resting holding the camera. And then I didn't pay attention to the screen because that's usually sometimes not what I'm focusing on. I'm looking at the talent, not necessarily the screen. And even this, looking at the lens. And so I noticed it's like internal temp getting too hot. It needs to cool off or what have you. Running into those scenarios for anything over an hour, if you were going to shoot everything in 4K 60, again, it's probably not the camera for you. Want to shoot everything in 4K 120, probably not the camera for you. I think those cameras will be coming. Do I think the A7S Mark III is going to see that update? Probably not. Such a hard pill to swallow about that one for friends and creator friends that have that camera, and it's really dope as is. But are you going to see dynamic active on that? No, because it doesn't exist. But will it come on the new cameras? Hopefully. So that's another reason why I think we won't see it. And then just the overheating. All of these things compounding to a camera that already wasn't built to do this stuff long term. For those snippets, you'll be fine. The regular 4K 24, I didn't have a problem all day. As soon as I start doing an hour plus of the 4K 60, 4K 120, then it's like, yeah, enough of that. So that's kind of the bug with that one. I think it's just going to be based on new cameras. And I don't think those new cameras are a long ways away. I think we are right on the edge of seeing some of those new cameras by Sony that's coming out, because there's a lot of good competition with all of the stuff that's happening right now in the camera space. And I don't think Sony's going to let it ride with only this camera being the one that has a bunch of amazing features like the active stage and such. So my final thoughts on the 4K 120p update and the 1080p 240p. I haven't tested that one all the way out for the 240 frames per second in HD, but I plan to. If I can catch the hummingbirds out here again, I'll throw in a quick clip. If not, see another on another video. But I think this is amazing. I'm glad for any extra updates and new features that we can get on this amazing camera. It's already so good. I'm having so much fun. Honestly, the last time I've had this much fun creating with a camera was probably when I first got the Canon M3, and then around like the Canon M50 when I first got that, just because it solved so many problems for me. Obviously switching in Sony was really dope, and the ZV-E10 did it for me, but the ZV-E1 takes it to the next level for me, and I'm just glad to have so many problem solving features built into this camera. You don't need to carry around a bunch of stuff, and that's what I love. But that's where I'm gonna leave it for this video. Make sure you create, post, repeat, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace.